Welcome to Across the Park podcast, the only place you can hear banter and debate from both sides of Stanley Park, whether it be blue or red. Sponsored by Their Clothing and Camper Kings UK.
Hello everyone, welcome to Across the Park podcast. It's part 2 of our Derby preview. It's myself, Gary Judge, and Andrew Price, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, representing the Blues, and we've got Terry McGiven and Gary Murray representing the red half. Before we do press on, one of our viewers on YouTube commented today to say it's not the only place that you can hear banter and debate from both sides of the park. I'm not aware of any other podcasts that are doing red and blue at the moment, but if they are, then apologies to you guys and good luck to you in the future. So anyway, this week we've got, as I say, part 2 of our Derby preview. So we'll have Joe Parkinson coming up on the blue side, and we'll have Stephen Warnock coming up on the red side. Both players who boast unbeaten records in their respective Derby careers. Okay, before we press on, a few mentions to our sponsors. So as you heard in the introduction, we've got Camper Kings UK, who boast a massive selection of camper vans, as the name suggests. Again, great time of the year in this weather to be getting out exploring. Certainly wouldn't want to be sleeping in a tent in this weather. So a much better way to spend your days if you're going on an adventure. Check them out. They've got some great offers on at the moment where you can get away in between those crap days in between Christmas and New Year where nothing's going on. Get out in a camper van instead. And we've got Their Clothing who supply our clothing as well. Gary's donning his Liverpool polo. That's not Their Clothing, just so you know. They had some fantastic offers on over the weekends during Black Friday, and they've got a new range that's being launched in a couple of weeks' time. I actually think Stephen Warnock is one of their brand ambassadors, so it's seamless on this podcast. Okay, we have got a new partner that's just joined the team. Myself and Pricey caught up with them today for a bit of a chat. Really excited to be working with them. It's a new concept in social betting. I'd say it's quite old school, isn't it, Pricey? Betting to a certain extent has always been part of that like Saturday football culture where you go and put your coupon on. I remember, my dad and my granddad put £1 on and whatever. And I think that's the way that betting's intended, for it to be fun. And that's what BETMATE are trying to recreate with their platform. So they're combining fantasy football with that old school, as I say, little bet that you can put on the footy to keep it interesting. So I want to talk you through the platform in a moment, but all of us on the podcast got a chance to try the app out for free, which you guys can all do. Pricey, Gary, do you want to share your experiences of the app over the weekend before I bring it in?
Yeah, so for me, I think it seems more like it's a host rather than a betting company. So they're not like a William Hill or a Paddy Power or anything. They're actually a host for your own bet. So you log on, pick a couple of players yourself. I think it's 6 or 7 players you pick rather than picking a full team. So you pick your players. Every player accumulates points from tackles, goals conceded, saves, all that type of thing. All play against each other in the league. And whoever's got the most points at the end wins the pot or wins the majority of the pot. Second place wins, and third place, so on and so forth. It was just dead easy to use. I know you're going to show it in a bit. It was just dead easy to use, and it was enjoyable to keep an eye on it throughout the day and see how my team was getting on as well.
Yeah, and as I found out, depends on how many it actually included. If even finishing 12th in the league table, you can still earn some money. I got £6 back off from my free bet, so that sets me up for next week nicely.
Yeah, that's it. And I'll bring it up now so I can show you. So this is what it looks like when you open up the app. It's got all the games there. On the right-hand side, you can join. That's our game there, ATP Pod. So I've picked my team based on Liverpool and Everton players. Obviously, I've gone for 4 Everton players. I've gone for 3 Liverpool. Like Pricey said before, it's about accumulation of points based on the performance, and I'll show you the rules here. So we've got, as usual, you get points for goals, just for appearance as well at the very top. Goalkeeper obviously gets loads of points if he scores. So Alisson would have smashed it last season in that game against West Brom. And then we've got the usual clean sheets. The tackle and interception bit's really interesting because it does make you go for them more combative midfielders who normally don't get a look in. And then you lose points for missed penalties, etc. So as you can see in the middle there, I went for Allen and Fabinho for tackles. But yeah, jump on the app. If you download it, it's BETMATE from the app and from the App Store. Like Pricey and Gary have just said, then you get a free hit on your first go. So there's a game every week, which is free for anyone who's not had a little go before. This week's game is Man United against Arsenal, which is on Thursday. So if you join this week, you'll get a little free hit at the Man United Arsenal game. If you don't have a go at that one, the next set of fixtures, you'll still get a chance to have your free go. Once you've had your little free go, you can then dip into any games you want. Really fun, and again, should be a good way of keeping betting fun. And like Gary found out this weekend, you might win a few quid as well. So yeah, please have a go at the derby this Wednesday. Obviously makes it interesting. It'd be great to see all of our listeners and viewers in there, and we can have a little bit of banter on next week's show on how we all done. Okay, so pressing on with the show, the actual show. Like I say, we caught up with Joe Parkinson and Stephen Warnock, and here's, first of all, what Joe Parkinson had to say to myself earlier in the week. Hi everyone, delighted to be joined by Everton legend, FA Cup winner, centre midfielder, one of the dogs of war, Joe Parkinson. How are you doing, Joe?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, thanks, Gary. How are you?
Good man, yeah, fantastic. Well, I've been better. Going into Derby week is never the most exciting week, but well, you know, it can be, but on this occasion, I'm not so sure. But look, I'm going to start on a slightly more positive note. I'm going to look back allow you to look back on some of your memories of derbies as a fan and obviously as a player as well.
Well, as a player, I was lucky enough to be one of them that I've never lost a derby. That included the mini derby as well. I mean, to be fair, I didn't play in many, but it's something that, you know, I'm still very proud of. You know, I've won at Anfield, won at Goodison. So for me, all my memories have been really positive. Unfortunately, they're not, as we'll speak a little bit later, maybe the fan side of it. But as a player, you know, the week building up to the derby day is just something else. You know, you get to know what the fans really feel about, you know, the game, and everyone's obviously, wherever you go in the street, shopping, whatever, it's all, you know, you've got to do it, and there's a lot of pressure gets put on you, which is good. Like I say, it was a positive for us. You know, I think most people say, even the Evertonians at the time when I played, we probably didn't have the better of the two sides on paper, but you know what we didn't have in talent or, you know, that flair, we certainly made up in determination and wanting to win a game, and I think that's what got us through. So, you know, the win at Anfield was something else, with Konchesky scoring them two goals, you know, and I'll never forget when he scored one at the Kop end, and as I looked, you know, there were stewards and people jumping up in the Kop end. I'm thinking,
I was one of them, yeah.
What's Williams working here for, you know? And it was just weird, you know. But you know, it worked both ways. So me personally, you know, the biggest one was the very first game of Joe Royal at Goodison, under the lights. I think we were bottom of the league. No one expected.
Monday night football, wasn't it? Dead, like it was a wet night, wasn't it?
It was perfect. There's nothing better than playing under lights, wet. You know, a game like that, and you know, we come out firing, and again, like I said, we probably weren't the best team, but we knew the couple of weeks it had been international duty, we'd really worked hard on trying to close them down. Brand new manager, and you know, we got us all working so hard and put them under pressure, and we managed to get the goal. So again, I'd just be going back on, I've got great memories of them, you know, and like I say again, I didn't play in many, but still, you know, I've won at Anfield, won at Goodison, which is more important, and then it sort of goes downhill from there, because apart from last year, sorry,
it's funny two of the ex-pros, obviously yourself and Stephen Warnock, neither of you played in, you know, tons of derbies, but again, you're both boasting, if you like, unbeaten records. So,
I didn't know you were saying that. Yeah, I didn't realise that.
No, we'll stay away from that now. But just you touched on it briefly before, but we've asked the same question to Kevin Campbell, to Jamie Carragher, and to Stephen Warnock, and you mentioned how obviously in the run up to the derby or the week leading up to it, is the atmosphere different at the training ground? Is it, you know?
Yeah, I'm not so sure what it's like the new training grounds, but you know, Belfield was, you know, it's quite compact, and there just seemed to be more press. You just seem to be doing more interviews, and going back again, wherever you went, just everyone wanted to know teams, and you know, any fans were just putting you under a little bit of pressure. It is a different week, and so it should be, because you know, it means so much to both sides, players as well as staff, and the fans, more importantly. So it's such a different week. So it's a week that I don't think I ever enjoyed, and looking back, I wish I could have done, but I was that type of person where I was too nervous, never wanted to make a mistake, and first of all, wanting to be in the side. So it was probably a week I never really enjoyed. And even the games where we won, I didn't enjoy them until I knew that whistle had gone. They're so hectic and fierce and frenetic. I didn't really enjoy the games because I always thought, even when we were, winning 2-0, I thought there's always that chance of them getting back. So I never relaxed or enjoyed it until that final whistle went. And rightly so, we would enjoy it because they were hard to come by. And, since then, we haven't won enough. So when we do win them, we've got to make sure we enjoy it, get that feeling again. And hopefully we can just, after last season, just build on that. But unfortunately, going into the game, we're not in the best run of form. And unfortunately, Liverpool are, I don't like saying it, they're sort of flying, aren't they? So it's going to be an immense task for us, to get a result from that. And that's just being realistic.
Well, we'll come on to that in a moment. But before we do, you were obviously one of the guys who was living near the grounds or in and around Liverpool, and although not, you're still a local enough lad to really feel what that meant to the fans. How important do you think that is for the teams, even to this day, to have local lads in the team?
Well, it's huge. Even
English, I guess.
Sorry.
Even English, I guess. It's not just local lads, is it?
No, I think most footballers, wherever they're from, there's a derby somewhere, isn't there? Within that city, wherever they come from. So, they should know what it means. The only derby I've played is the Merseyside one. I played Wigan v Bolton, but it's not quite got that ring to it. But
Terry.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, isn't it? That one, where Joe's obviously talking a bit more interesting as Judge's face on that pause screen.
I'm going to go through that. I'm going to have to.
Obviously, where Joe's talking, you asked the question: how important is it? In terms of having local lads, in the derby, and I think it from my perspective, I think it's super important that that there is like local blood involved in these games who know what it means and know what it's about. I don't know what you think. Are you worried that maybe there isn't necessarily Scousers in the side for Everton? Because obviously we didn't.
I slightly disagree. I think it is always nice to have a local player playing, but when you think of our players, like Parkinson's from Wigan, he's not completely local. You've got Barry Owen, who weren't local. Duncan Ferguson's not local. You've got Phil Neville, wasn't local. Tim Cahill weren't local. Lee Carsley weren't local. They're all the people I would say were always the fighters. So I'd much rather have a committed player who was confident and willing to go that extra mile for Everton rather than a Scouser just for Scouser's sake. Would you rather have Decore or Tom Davis in the team? I don't think it's really that much important if they're a Scouser or not personally. I think it's always nice to have one in there if you can, but it's about the quality and it's about the desire more than anything else for me.
I think for us though, we've probably got this idea more because our local lads and our Scouse lads who have played have all been class. They've all, maybe not every one of them, but the majority of them. You think back to Carragher, you've got Gerrard, you've got Trent now, you had Fowler, McManaman. They were all really good players, really important players who we relied on in these games. So I think maybe from our point of view, looking at it like that, that's probably where it comes from for us. Whereas for you, your bigger players in these games, as you've labelled there, aren't so much from the city.
Yeah. I would say Redknapp is definitely more of a local to your fans than the others. Like, no, I agree with Pricey, to be honest, and you're right as well, Gary. I don't think we have ever really had that poster boy, have we? The person you go like he's the man and whatever. Rooney was probably going to be that for us, wasn't he? And he didn't play in enough derbies and whatever. So yeah, it's a fair point, but I completely agree with Pricey. And you look around, and I look at our team sheet, and probably Seamus Coleman, ironically, is the closest we've got to that kind of player who gets the fans. And he'd probably be the player you'd expect to rattle into a challenge first out of all those players. Allen would be up there as well. So yeah, Yerry Mina would be one. He couldn't live any further away from Liverpool, but he'd definitely be someone who I'd expect would get it in terms of that rivalry. But no, I think it's a really interesting point, and again, something was probably worth picking up from
just looking back at something else Joe Parkinson's mentioned there, he's sort of, I don't know whether it's on purpose or not, but he's sort of emphasising how much when he played they were sort of the maybe not as good as Liverpool, and going into the games they were never expected to do much, but he's sort of emphasised it a little bit there, and I think going into this game it's very much of a similar ilk, isn't it? So
yeah, I think the only difference there is back then we had the players who could be, he said, hectic and frantic. We had the players who could make Liverpool a bit frantic and hectic and a bit not scared, but not being able to relax on the ball because you're always a passing team. We have players you can get in your face. Then I'm not sure we've got them players now. I don't think they'll be that frantic on Wednesday.
That's what my next question was going to be. Do you think you could still do that now with how you have been performing lately? Because obviously, a lot of chat around the club at the minute is there is absolutely no fight at all.
Yeah, well, you know what? I done a show last week with We Love Sport alongside Gareth from the Anfield Wrap, and that was the main thing I said. I said, like, looking back at your team in the 90s and the late 90s with the Spice Boys and all that, you were a team that I felt we could get at. And obviously Joe Parkinson's speaking about that here. You look at your team now and they haven't got that soft side to them as much anymore, certainly nowhere near. If anything, they're probably one of the tougher sides in the Premier League when it comes to, that being up for a battle. So I think there's definitely less of that edge that we can maybe have on them. Anyway, back to Joe anyway, and we'll pick up some more in a moment.
And what it means is something else. And until you come and maybe lived here before, the games, as in the players coming in a few months before, you sort of get that sense of what football means to Liverpoolians, Evertonians. It means so much to them. It's a footy mad city. All other cities will say that, but it's something else when you come to this city. And, you as a player, you get to know what it means to the fans, and hopefully you can put it in the performances, and that's why it's so important to try and get a result out of them.
Well, moving on to this game, and you've just touched on, obviously, I wouldn't say the rich vein of form. Liverpool have been that way for quite some time now, and I guess, again, without dwelling on them too much, they're almost something like a machine who just keep churning it out. And, going into this game, I think we know how, Liverpool are going to approach it. How do you think, Rafael Benitez and this Everton side approaches this game?
I'm not too sure, because you could say should we sit back and try and defend against them, but you think they've got too good of players. They move the ball too quickly at times. Then we go at them, but we'll leave ourselves open. I'm not too sure. I'm really, really not. It's going to be a hard one because, again, probably on paper, especially with a couple of injuries that we have, they're a stronger side. We've just got to show, and the fans, which I know they will get right behind them, and we've got to keep them fans involved in the game. And that means, getting out there, a fast start, whatever way that might be, whether it's on the front foot, a few tackles in there, get the fans. But we can't be going down early on with goals because, like I've just said, we need the fans on their side, and they're that extra man for us, which is, like we've said about form, we're not doing well at the moment and they're flying. So we do need every little edge, and the fans can be that edge to, see if we can get a result out of the game.
Pricey, just on that one, obviously Joe's emphasised there the importance of the fans and the role they'll play on Wednesday. What's your feeling on that?
I think it's massive. I think our fans this week are going to be absolutely massive. But we know we're not good. We're not as good as Liverpool. We can't. Just said there, we can't particularly say that we're going to get in the face and be that type of team. But if someone throws in a tackle early, I'm thinking Godfrey or Corey Allen throws in a decent tackle, and the crowd get up for it. I mean, the crowd should be up for it anyway, but you know what Goodison's like. If you get a tackle early on, that does get everyone up for it, and everyone's even more so than they would have been anyway. I think a bad start, what I mean by that is a goal conceded in the first 10 minutes, and it could fall flat. So I think it's massive. I think we are a 12th man. I think we need it more than ever. We won last season at Anfield without the fans and managed to get a draw at home. But I think we were better. We were better last season in terms of we had not the injuries that we had. We were going into the games in better form. I think the form book at the moment, I haven't won in 6, and I think we're going to need us. And as I say, it's for them first 10-15 minutes. I think it'll be the telling side of whether we're up for it or not. I mean, we'll be up for it anyway, but I mean in terms of whether we keep getting behind them or whether Goodison falls flat or not. What do you reckon? Do you reckon it'll be a case of the fans? I can't see the fans turning and being angry during the game, but I can see it going a little bit quiet and us being in a little bit of shock.
It all depends, doesn't it? Obviously, like in any game, and this is the case in any stadium, an early goal from Liverpool in this case would really turn the mood, wouldn't it? And because, you speak to any Evertonian, if they're going to be honest with it, we take a draw right now and walk away from this and try and move on. Because, one, our form's been poor anyway, and two, we know it could be a lot worse than a draw for us. So I think an early goal in Liverpool's favour would really make it a difficult night for us. I think if we're in the game for the first 15, 20 minutes and the players show the level of aggression that you would want from them and expect from them, then I think it could be a difficult night for Liverpool, because I think the players could respond really well to that, because they probably haven't felt that. Some of them players in that team, including Decore and Allen, haven't really been at a Goodison that's really rocking and where the fans are behind them, and they've seen the scenes at Brentford the other day where the fans are turning and are really negative towards the performance and the output. So they're almost coming into the game thinking, what do we expect here? So I just want to stop on that point, because I think it's a massive one for Everton in particular in terms of the atmosphere at the ground. Well, you just mentioned it then, that the injuries are obviously massive. Out of the players who are not available at the moment, so we're talking Yerry Mina, Decore, Calvert-Lewin. If you had to choose, okay, I'm going to go 2 out of the 3, it would be your 2 that you'd want on that team sheet.
Calvert-Lewin and Decore, absolutely. Calvert-Lewin, and obviously that hopefully put a bit of worry in Liverpool's defence. Decore, his energy, scoring goals, the amount of ground he covers and complements Allen seems to do better. So I think them 2 would be our main ones, and they're just such a massive miss. We haven't got the massive depth and quality within the squad, so them 2 are massive misses for us. We have to play other people out of position, and it doesn't really help us. So them 2 are so important for our team, and unfortunately they're not going to be there, which is going to be a huge loss. Definitely.
Would you like to see Anthony Gordon in the team?
Yeah, I think he's done well, and you touched on it before. A lad who knows what it'll all be about. Yeah, you know what you're going to get from him, the passion, and he's got the quality as well. So yeah, I would like to see him, and I think he's done quite well when he's been in the team. So he would deserve. Unfortunately, I didn't see the last game. I was away, so I missed it. So again,
another one of our former players, Lee Carsley's done us a massive favour as well. He's obviously brought him into the 21s, and he's got a couple of goals there. And I felt, from watching him, that was something that he's banged them in the 23s, and he's obviously done it at younger age groups and done it for England at younger age groups. But I think it was big for him, I think, to be getting some goals in the 21s. Obviously, it's not in the Premier League, but it looked for me that was something he was maybe missing in his performance, that bit of confidence getting on the score sheet. So hopefully,
he'll get that confidence from playing games as well. Only getting a run in the team and not being that first one to be either be pulled off or someone else. If he can stay on a bit longer, then that confidence will grow. But yeah, definitely needs to add goals to him. His goals to his games, because he is a threat. So yeah, it'd be good to have him in the team. But let's keep going back to, we're not in the best of form, but we just need people who are going to be committed for the cause, really. And whoever gets put up there, it's going to be interesting, because obviously of our manager, what sort of reception he gets.
Just before he moves on to Benitez, Terry, Gary, I wanted you to bring you in on the previous question I was asked him there. I've just stopped it on a great moment on my face again, by the way. For the benefit of our listeners, obviously we're watching the interview. For the ones who are listening on the podcast app and not seeing the visuals, I'm stopping my interview with Joe Parkinson, and every time I stop it, there's just a really good picture of me that's frozen on the screen. So Gary, Terry, just to ask you the question I asked Joe Parkinson. His answer before was that he felt that the most important players for us to be fit were Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Decore. They were the ones that he felt could hurt you the most. Do you agree with that, or?
Yeah, I think so. Out of them 3 that you named, Mina, Decore, and Calvert-Lewin. I mean, I think a big issue for you is goals. You know, as much as I know you like Mina at the back and stuff, I'll be honest. I maybe don't see it, but I just don't think he's at some dramatically better improvement over some of your other players. I think he's got mistakes in him and stuff. And in a derby, he might actually be the type of player to get booked and possibly even sent off because he seems to have that sort of rashness in him. But obviously, Calvert-Lewin is your goal scorer, and he is a live threat. And we've been vulnerable to set pieces, so obviously he would be, the player that you'd be thinking like, in and around the box on set pieces, crosses, corners, and things. He's obviously a live prospect, isn't he, at getting a goal. And I think I've said it previously in terms of your signings. I think, I've always liked Decore, and when you signed him, and I thought it was a good signing, and I think he's been your best player, since that window. He is a box of energy, and he gets up and down the pitch really well. So they'd be the two that I would say, that you'd want back now. Decore obviously is back. It didn't look like he was going to be, but he obviously played there, didn't he, at the weekend? I'm not sure where Calvert-Lewin's up to. Is there any chance that he's back for the game, or is that one that's not likely to happen?
I don't know, to be honest. It's almost like it's a bit like that Wayne Rooney saga, where he was going to be fit for the Euros, where the club aren't really denying it or confirming it. Calvert-Lewin said he appeared at an evening a couple of weeks ago where he said he's aiming to be fit for the derby. But no words on it, so maybe he's the ace in the pack. Before we move on, Pricey, and get back to Joe, just to mention, or I suppose towards Anthony Gordon, what's your opinion on, assuming everyone is fit who we're expecting to be fit, would you start him against Liverpool?
Yeah, I would. I think he's got energy and he's got commitment that your Iwobi's hasn't got. I mean, again, only because of who's going to be fit. If your Calvert-Lewin's fit, then I wouldn't. I'd play Townsend and Gray wide in the wide positions. But I'm assuming Calvert-Lewin's not going to be fit, and therefore I would play Gordon there and Townsend a bit more centrally. Again, he's done all right. You know what I mean? He needs to probably work on a few things that you'd expect any youngster to work on. But in terms of playing, I'd put him in 100% on even on Sunday's performance in comparison to someone like Iwobi.
Oh yeah, all day over Iwobi. Okay, right. Back to Joe anyway.
And then if the game's not going so well, his reactions to that, we'll just have to see how it goes. But hopefully, he's going to be a bit of a legend if he turns his first derby into a win, won't he?
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's such a massive game for Benitez as much as anyone else. I think, regardless of anyone's feelings about him at the moment, my message would be to all the fans is we've just got to get behind him because he's our manager. And a win would be massive, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, people were asking me before he came, it's Rafa that's who's going to come in. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, do you know what? We've had managers who were supposed to be high profile or this, that, and the other. They've not worked. I just want someone to come in, stabilise the team again, and get us going. If that means it's Rafa Benitez, then so be it. And what we've got to do is get right behind him, because having a go at him early on, I think we've got to understand the squad he's inherited. It's still not his team, so we've got to think about that and just put away that he used to obviously manage the Reds, and back him, because everyone I've spoke to who've been connected with him, sing the highest praises about him, and we all know he's going to be ultra professional, and more than anyone, he'll want to win that game.
Absolutely. So on that note, then, Joe, can we get a prediction from you?
2 for 1, or just one for fans?
let's assume we've got all our players available and we get all of those ingredients that you're after.
Yeah, well, I think hand on heart, I think a good result for us will be a draw, and that is what I'm hoping for. A win, it'll be an amazing result. It'll be a result of the season, to be fair. And it's not an easy thing to say for an Evertonian and a former player. I think we'll do unbelievable to get a victory. So I think if we can get a result out of the game, a draw, a score draw, I'd be more than happy as it stands now.
Yeah, fair enough. And where will you be watching the game, Joe? At home behind the couch?
Yeah, well, no. We've obviously coming back down here from Hartlepool now. I've been asked to work back in the lounges.
Fantastic.
So I'll be working before the game, chatting to the punters, and then I'll be watching it behind one of the chairs in one of the lounges, I think, hiding.
Super, Joe. Well, listen, I hope it's a good one for us, and really appreciate you coming on and sharing your thoughts.
No, it's a pleasure. Anytime, Gary, you know that. Thank
you very much, Joe. Okay, so Once again, massive thanks to Joe Parkinson. Always a pleasure to have on. Dead honest, proper Evertonian, and great to hear that he's back in the club doing his bit as well. We are going to move on to Stephen Warnock in a moment. Stephen obviously covers a little bit about Rafael Benitez, as you'd expect as well. So we'll maybe touch on some of the Benitez questions on that as well. Anything for you guys to add?
Just thinking back to you asked Joe there about Calvert-Lewin, Mina or Decore, which two of the three. If you'd have asked Millsy that question based on his podcast he done yesterday with Phil, he was saying if you need goals, you need Mina back in the team. So it absolutely blew my mind.
It's an interesting. No, it's an interesting one. I mean, there's two ways to look at it. One for me on the Mina side, and that's why I kind of put the question his way is we've been so poor from defending set pieces, and I know you guys haven't been amazing either in that front. But you're a much bigger side than us, which is unusual. We haven't had that for a while, where you're a bigger side than us, but you are, and I'm more imposing on that side. You know, even if it's not height, you're just more physical. And I think he does. Even though Decore and Calvert-Lewin are obviously outstanding athletes as well, Mina, closely followed with Calvert-Lewin, is the best in the air out of our players, because it's pure height. Doesn't get as many goals as he should, but I can kind of see where Millsy's probably coming from. Anyway, we'll bring in Stephen Warnock, and as we've done before, we'll add our own little bits of opinions to his. Hello, everyone. Delighted to have Stephen Warnock previewing the derby with us. Stephen, how are you doing?
Very good, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
No, thank you very much. Listen, we'll get right into it, Stephen. Obviously, we're going into Derby week now on Merseyside. I'm just going to speak to you a little bit first and foremost as a fan. Growing up, what did the Derby mean to you?
Well, I'm from a split family. Myself and my mum are Reds, and my dad and my brother are Blues. So it was always an interesting one on Derby Day. I think it's the pride, isn't it, of the city, the being able to go into work and brag, wind your mates up, get on the backs a little bit. But that was the part of sort of growing up as a youngster. That was everything that you went into school was all about, and it was enjoyable.
Yeah, same here, and obviously that's why we're doing this piece as well. Obviously, shifting into your playing career slightly, you know you've been around the training grounds in the build up to derbies. And been around it, I guess, after it as well. Did the mood around the training ground change in Derby week? Did you ever see that or feel that?
Always depends where they are in the league. I think that's a big thing, the run of form that they might be on. I think more often than not, you look at it as another game, and that's the way you have to judge it. But being a local lad, growing up in and around the area, knowing what it meant, the messages that come in, the phone calls that you have, walking around the city, the sort of the messages from fans as they're walking past, both sides of the city as well. It was always interesting. I tended to try and keep a low profile going into it. I keep a low profile anyway, but I always thought the less you hear, the better, because you get yourself wound up. But you always look at the local lads, and they have to try and tell the foreign players or the players not from sort of the area what it means to play in a derby. And I think it's not until you sampled it for the first time you actually understand it, of how fierce it is, how tough it is, how sometimes, not so much lately anyway, but how much the game can sort of be not as entertaining, not as technical and tactical, but there's more bite in a game like that, and you've got to be up for the challenge as well. So it depends who's in charge as well. It depends who the manager is as well, and how they approach the game. I only played in games under Rafa Benitez in derby games, Liverpool, Everton, and his was always to keep 11 players on the pitch. That was the one thing he'd always say: don't let your emotion get the better of you. But he always knew it was important to have local lads in the team, because what it meant to them and what it meant to have local players on the pitch for the crowd as well.
I thought that was an interesting comment, to be honest. Obviously, we spoke a little bit about the local lad thing, but Reds, I guess, first. What do you make of the comment that Benitez's first priority in every derby was to keep all 11 players on the pitch?
I think a lot of the time for us, it because we were majority the better team, it wasn't so much a challenge to keep it on. It's just not losing your head. And I think it was probably aimed at the more local lads, that, because I don't think you'd ever really see, like, you know, under Benitez especially, like the Spanish lads, Alonso, Garcia, Torres, you wouldn't really see them throwing ridiculous challenges in and getting wound up and, you know, into sort of on the pitch fight, sandbags and stuff. It would more be, you see, obviously we've had plenty of times Gerrard throwing challenges in, and Carragher famously in one of them throwing Pienaar in the air after 30 seconds. You know, there has been plenty of our local lads, so I think them comments were probably more aimed at them. I think looking at your team now, which obviously Benitez is now managing News, he's not really got that to worry about. If I'm right in saying that, it's more the local lads, because as you just pointed out, your bigger players are not so much Scousers. They're just from everywhere. So yeah, I don't know whether it'll be a similar message or whether it might even be more poignant now, in fact, because of the position you're in. It is a bit of a strange one.
What do you make of that comment?
I think it's fair enough. I think back in those, when Benitez was Liverpool manager, we could wind the players up a little bit more. I think we did try and get under the skin. That was our tactic. Well, that was one of our tactics, I would say, going into the game, was to try and get them involved in those, you know, battles and try and turn their heads and make them do something reckless. So it was probably a reaction to the way Everton were going to go into the game, as well as from their own point of view. Whether he'll say the same to Everton, probably, yeah. We've got players who, saying before, whether they're as committed or not, I don't know. We've definitely got players who might be susceptible to getting involved. You know, I'm thinking Michael Keane and Godfrey, Holgate if he plays. They're the type of players who might get involved in that type of thing and sort of lose their heads a bit. So I think it's fair enough. You don't want to. You want to have that passion and that commitment without going over the line. And I think it's fair enough.
But don't you think when you say get involved in that type of thing, like without this becoming like an Everton bashing, do you not think it's going to come from your players to get that started rather than getting involved in it? Because I think if it was up to Liverpool, if it was up to the Liverpool players, we'd just have an absolute 11v11 game of footy, not have to get involved in any of that. And, you know, all jokes aside, we'd probably wipe the floor with us if it was like that.
Making a decent tackle is different than going over the line and getting caught up off the balls, you know, and verbally. And then when you're getting done verbally, then you're more chance of putting a high one over the ball. Having a good tackle and a clean fight is different than taking it too far. And as I said before, we've got players who might lose, you know, potential to lose their heads a bit. You know, the players I mentioned. Nothing wrong with a good tackle. I'd be telling Alan and Coleman and Decore and whoever else to get stuck in, because they're the players that can. But you know, you've got to be careful. You don't want to have a centre back sent off in the first half an hour.
But that's it, isn't it? I think that, and that's where obviously Benitez, it's probably two different kettles of fish. When he was Liverpool manager, you know, we probably had the better side, and it's almost like if we lose a man, though, it's a leveler, a big leveler. You know, you all of a sudden, like you're a man down, and you're playing with 10, and all, you can't play your game then. I think now with Everton, if you lose a man and you already feel that, you know, you're up against it could be curtains, you know, and it could be turned into like a real downward spiral. So I think as a manager, you don't want to curtail the passion, but at the same time, you know, every plan and thing that you've made goes out the window if you lose a man, you know, in the game. So for different reasons, I can see why Benitez used to say that message at Liverpool, and will probably still push the message of keep it 11 on the pitch for use.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's a little bit horses for courses as well, like you suggested. For your team, losing a man and stuff, it's like it's given an unnecessary advantage to the other team when really there was no need to do that. But anyway, as I say, I'm hoping it's horses for courses, and he knows that this particular team doesn't need to be told to calm down or chill out, because that's all they do. It's the other way around. But anyway, back to Stephen Warnock. Well, you just answered my next question. I was going to say, do you think it's important to have local lads in the team? You know, it's not as... I mean, I think back to the Derby, certainly in the 90s and early 2000s, it was sometimes how Everton could kind of get the upper hand. And then, you know, Liverpool obviously always had Stevie and Jamie in there who made a big difference. But for you, just briefly reflecting on that, do you think it's really important now, or do you think that kind of dynamic's changed a little bit?
I think it has changed a little bit, but you look at sort of Everton and Liverpool, and they're never prouder than when a local lad steps on the pitch and represents what they do and what their philosophy is of a Liverpool player. And I think that's hugely important, both sides of the city. And the more that we see local lads playing in the first team, I think that's just so good for the city and what it is. I do think other players get it, though. They understand what it means and they have to. The quicker they buy into that, the better. But yeah, it has shifted a little bit. But you see the passion from the foreign players now, because they know what it means to fans. They're not daft. Fans are no different to any other fans. They're all passionate about the team, and they know what it means to win a derby. So players playing derbies, whatever club they're at, because there's always a derby, but it's understanding the magnitude of a Merseyside derby and how important it is.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, you've just touched on it briefly. Then I think the Reds will probably know how Liverpool approach this game in their usual fashion. Albeit, as a Blue, I look back at the derbies where Liverpool have come to goodness, and I don't think they've always been at it. There's always been something slightly, I wouldn't say intimidating, because I don't think Klopp and his teams ever really...
I'm glad you said Jurgen Klopp. I don't think I lost at Everton.
No, I'm not. I get that one in, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I mean, the question is then, how do you think, I suppose, Rafael Benitez is going to approach this game? You just alluded to it before. I don't think personally Jurgen Klopp's going to change anything, but what about Benitez to you? What can we expect from his team?
Pretty much similar than what you've seen over the last few weeks against the likes of Man City. No, it is, but that's Rafa. Rafa's defensive minded. His philosophy is to not concede goals and is to try and pinch a goal somewhere, whether that's a counter attack, a set piece, whatever it might be. But he'll come and make it difficult. He'll sit his team behind the ball, try and be organised, try and frustrate Liverpool. But why wouldn't you? If you come out and try and play against Liverpool and leave yourself open, the players are that good. They'll find the gaps and they'll take the opportunities. If you sit deep and you frustrate them, and every player's concentrated and they don't make mistakes in what they're trying to achieve, then they'll do well. And they can frustrate Liverpool, but I think Evertonians would also say, let's go after them. Let's try and go toe to toe. We want to see our team actually have a go and try and win the game rather than sit back. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Rafa will sit back and he'll do probably what he tried to do against Manchester United at Old Trafford, which was just counter-attack and hope that he's got willing runners who are going to be in behind and can cause Liverpool problems.
Two questions, Pricey. One, which camp are you in? As in sitting back or going after them? And two, which do you think is the best approach? Probably the same question, but...
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go toe to toe with them. I think I'm happy to sit back. The important thing for me is the quality then on the ball when we do have possession. Because against Man City we were terrible just passing it back to them. Against Man United, which you just mentioned, we were a lot better when we had the ball in possession. So I'm fine sitting back and keeping it tight and making sure we don't give anything away. But then our outlets have got to perform for us. If Gray's playing, or we said before, if Gordon's wide, we've got to be able to give them the ball. And they've got to do something with it. They've got to keep hold of it. You've got to have Richarlison. If he's up front, he's got to keep hold of it. It didn't stick against Man City. It was coming straight back at us. As long as he can get hold of it, bring players in, and we're good on the ball, and we're confident in possession, then I see nothing wrong with sitting back. Going toe-to-toe would be a nightmare. Going toe-to-toe, I could see us getting beat 4-0, seriously, because we're just not good enough to do that. I mean, I think Benitez recognise we're not good enough to do that. I don't think there's any danger of us trying to go toe-to-toe with them. But for me, it's keep tight, but in possession, we need to be confident on the ball.
Briefly, Reds, do you agree with that? Do you agree with Pricey's notion on that?
Yeah, I just think I think I said it before, if you do try and come out and play against us, and you do inevitably leave them gaps, I think it could be an absolute tormentous night for you. I think we'd absolutely destroy you. I think you've got to have any hope of getting anything out this game. You've got to sit in and try and frustrate us. Keep it 0-0 for as long as possible. No, I think Millsy said if it's 0-0 after half an hour, that's a victory for you in that first half an hour. And I think that's just how you've got to approach the game. I think it's certainly if you've got to half time at 0-0 and you could come out second half with a little bit more of a game plan to sort of come out a bit more, but still being compact. it's a dream for you, and that is when we do get frustrated. That's the type of game where, you know, we do look like we're starting to run out of ideas a little bit. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it is a really frustrating night. But even still, I just think we're in that good a form at the minute. And, you know, I don't really like derbies usually. I'm really nervous in them, and I've always thought, you know, Everton are due one. You'd have just won one last year, so maybe that's your lot for a while again. But I am always thinking you're due one. This time round, I'm going into it like we've got absolutely nothing to fear here.
You haven't beaten as good as them for a while, though. But I mean, in terms of what about if it is 0-0 after 70 minutes, are Liverpool going to start getting frustrated?
I think so. Yeah, I think we'll be. That's what I'm saying. I think that's your only hope of getting anything. If you sit in, if you come out and try and have a go, I think there's nothing down for you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what I find interesting is like you're talking, you know, about how poor you. I know you're in a really bad run of form at the moment, but speaking as if like, you know, your players have got almost no chance of competing, but if you look at the game that you won last season at Anfield, if you look at the players who played in that game for yous, the entire backline that played in that game, Pickford, Holgate, Keane, Godfrey, Digne, Coleman, are all available. And then you add in midfield Gomez, Davis and Decore. Decore's available.
Holgate isn't available. Gomez isn't available. I mean, not that I'd want either of them players to be available.
But exactly, they're not players that
Rodriguez isn't around.
It's a confidence thing, isn't it? We're going in. We haven't won in 5 or 6. It was a 6 games now. We haven't won. It's a confidence thing.
It's poor form, but is it not? Are you not thinking that if ever there's a chance to snap a run of form, it's a derby, and the players that won it at Anfield last season, a vast majority of them players are not far off one of your strongest teams, really.
Going back to your thing there, Terry. So Calvert-Lewin, James Rodriguez, Gomez, Holgate, none of them are available. Calvert-Lewin, outside chance. The others have got no chance. But like Pricey said, that we were going into the game there in relatively high spirits. I think we had a team who knew how to defend set plays and were comfortable with the way they were setting up. We certainly had a team at that moment who knew how to keep clean sheets. And we had a team who could get the odd goal as well. And we had obviously a creative spark in there. So I think that's the biggest difference here is like you look at it and it's like, where are our strengths and where can we actually get a leg up on them? I don't know.
You look at that midfield going, you'd much rather have Alan available, wouldn't you? And Decore playing in the midfield rather than Tom Davis and Gomez. So, and then Calvert-Lewin didn't start the game at Anfield. He went off, didn't he? Or he came on, one or the other. So I look at it and think, you know, on paper, is it really that weak a team? You'd argue that you've got your strongest players available, bar maybe Mina or Calvert-Lewin.
Mina and Calvert-Lewin, they're the only two missing out of starting 11.
Other than that, you've got a full side.
Okay, well, back to Steve. We'll come to obviously more of our opinions as we come out of here. Yeah, I think I'm somewhere in the middle, to be honest. I know you just said, you know, a lot of Evertonians will want us to go toe-to-toe. I'm not really that way inclined. I'm not.
They're not good enough. And that's the harsh reality of it, is that they're trying to get to that level, but at this moment in time, they can't go toe-to-toe with Liverpool. There's only 3 teams in the league who can probably go toe-to-toe with Liverpool, or 2, which is Chelsea and Man City. And they're the only teams that can really go toe-to-toe with Liverpool. And that is the gulfing quality at the moment.
Well, again, you've just alluded to, obviously, the tactical side of it. Where do you think, assuming that that's the way things are setting up, which, again, I think it's fair to say it will pan out that way, where's the game lost and won for you?
Well, I think when you look at Liverpool's vulnerabilities is when they push the fullbacks forward, and it's making sure that you leave players high up the pitch and be brave. I think that's when you look at Liverpool versus Brighton a couple of weeks ago, that's what they did. They counter-attacked extremely well. West Ham did the same thing as well. I think if you can get past Liverpool's midfield by carrying the ball past them and take them out the game, then you're effectively in a 3v3 situation running at them. And that's where it becomes dangerous for Liverpool. But they trust themselves to be able to do that. Every now and again, they'll have an off day doing that. But for Liverpool, it's the speed in which they move the ball. It's getting players in 1v1 situations, 2v1 situations, which they're extremely good at. And it's also getting the ball into key players. If you allow Trent Alexander-Arnold time on the ball, he'll produce quality into the forward players. If you leave Salah and Mane in 1v1 situations, they'll absolutely terrorise you. So it's about being organised for Everton but also being clever on the counter attack.
I think Everton, I mean, certainly speaking as a Blue, before I speak again, because it's not about me, we spoke a lot about how Everton approached this, Terry, Gary. What do you think about Stephen Warnock's concern, I suppose the right words, about pushing your fullbacks up too high up the pitch?
Yeah, well, I think we've seen that, and we've highlighted it a number of times on the podcast, haven't we? That's the area of the pitch where teams feel they can get at us, particularly down Trent's side, because he probably goes forward even more, and it's the side that Van Dijk isn't on in the defence. So, we know that that's an area of vulnerability, and at times, certainly last season, and even at times this season when we haven't had a full complement of midfielders, it can really hurt us, because the other ones who've came in don't seem as adept as like Henderson, Wijnaldum and Fabinho used to be when we had that three covering them full-back areas. I think, this season we've seen it when we've had the injuries that, it just hasn't quite worked in terms of like covering them gaps up. But we go into this derby with, arguably our strongest midfielders available, in probably Thiago, Fabinho and Henderson. So I'm a bit more confident that with that midfield, we've got the capability, the foundation to be able to push the fullbacks on. Obviously, you'd say one of your better players is Richarlison, who'd be looking to try and spring that trap in behind our fullbacks. But at the same time, I think, as I say, with them midfielders available, them gaps would be closed. And I'm not as worried as I would have been if we were going into it with a midfield that we had a couple of weeks ago, of like a Keita, Curtis Jones and Fabinho or something. I just think with Henderson being available, with Thiago being available, with Fabinho being available, it's less of a worry for me, that. What do you reckon, Gav?
Yeah, not really much more to add. I think it's just a side note is when Brighton and West Ham done it, which is what Warnock sort of alluded to before, they're in really good form and they're playing really well, and that's how they played the majority of the time. Whereas for Everton at the moment, they're so low on confidence, they're hurting in so many ways, and we're so high on confidence. I just think things like that will come into that aspect, and when the ball's getting played over the top in behind our fullbacks, that confidence is going to be a big key for them to be able to get it down quickly, get at our defenders before anyone tracks them back and sort of intercepts it. I think for us as well, playing our fullback so far forward is something that we do on the regular, and I think the confidence is there for us to be able to play our own game regardless of what Everton are going to do and come out with the 3 points.
Okay, sorry, Pricey.
No, I was just going to say, I think Liverpool give chances away. Even at Southampton at the weekend, Liverpool played well, but Southampton had chances. Liverpool will always give chances away, just the way they play. So I think the chance is there for Everton to score a goal, definitely, if we can take one of the chances. Not like a Man City situation where I don't think we're going to get a look in. I think we are, whether we can take them or not.
No, that's a fair point, yeah. Okay, we'll allow Stephen to finish off here, and then we'll come back in with our predictions. We need some of our key players back. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I think, is someone who could hurt Liverpool. I think Richarlison has struggled up there on his own. You got Takore, who I think is one of the men who could bypass that midfield and has got that ability. But I think from the Liverpool side of things, I think the difference for you has been when Fabinho was really firing and he's on it physically and tactically. I think Arsenal tried to catch Liverpool out with those inverted wingers, if you like, trying to kind of cheat on the fullbacks. But the fact that Fabinho was sweeping up so well against Arsenal made a massive difference.
Yeah, he's arguably one of the best in the business at it, isn't he? There's very few players who play it as well as him, and it allows Robertson or Tsimikas, whoever plays in that position, and then Trent Alexander-Arnold to go forward, knowing that you've got that player behind you, that safety blanket will snuff the danger out. The big thing is that if you switch the play very quickly and you leave players out there, it's big ground for him to cover. It's tough, but he's more than capable of doing it. And I think that's where Liverpool are at the best when he plays. Liverpool are also at the best when Firmino's at his best. So he'll obviously probably miss the game, which is a big miss for Liverpool, because I think that they're a better team with him in it. Saying that, Jota's on fire as well, which shows you the strength of the forward players that Liverpool has got as well.
course. Just tactics aside, and again, looking slightly beyond the derby, and assuming that one team maybe does get the victory, how much can a good result in the derby, what does that mean to a team?
I think it means more to Everton. I think it's just a confidence booster. I think they enjoy the victories over Liverpool when they can get them, which have been very few and far between of late. Liverpool have dominated the derbies, and that's why it'll springboard them, it'll catapult them and give them that confidence. I think for Liverpool, it's another game, and I'm not meaning that disrespectfully, but the way that Liverpool's mentality now is one game at a time. And you look at the West Ham game when they got beat, it was like, well, that's a mistake. It happens, and we'll bounce back. And then they go and dominate Arsenal and absolutely batter them. And everyone was saying Arsenal were on the back of a 10 or 12 game unbeaten run. And they go into that game and everyone's saying this is going to be a tricky tie for Liverpool and it's going to be tough for them to overrun Arsenal. And it was just far too easy for them. So from Liverpool's point of view, it's just another game after when it's finished. If they win it, great. Then they can celebrate beating Everton, the local rivals. If they don't, they'll brush themselves down and they'll go again. Whereas Everton, it's a little bit different. I think Rafa will be under pressure if he doesn't do something in the derby. That's when he's being sort of asked the questions. Tactically, how good is he? And there's been a lot of Evertonians talking, whether I'm right or wrong in saying this, but if he wins a derby, he gets a bit more grace. He gets a bit more sort of a bit more love from the Everton fans because he's not on a great run at the moment, and the pressure will be sort of. I wouldn't say there's pressure on Rafa at the moment. He's not in like sacking territory, but there's only so much the crowd will take of it.
He needs some vindication, doesn't he, for what he's actually doing at the moment in terms of like, okay, look, I like you're saying, and if he produces something in the derby, it will have to be to a certain extent a bit of a tactical masterstroke, and I think if he pulls something off, it will vindicate to the fans. Hold on, it actually he might be onto something, and it might be something that we can get behind.
Yeah, I think the other thing I'd say with Rafa is judge him when he's got a strongest 11 and see what he can do then, and then maybe in January when he's got a little bit more money, perhaps he can bring a couple of players in, wheel and deal a little bit. Then that's fine. If Everton had Calvert-Lewin fit, Decore fit, Richarlison, Damari Gray, and you look at all those players and you go, well, they're a danger. They're a danger going forward. But it's have they got all them? Are they all going to be playing? Can he field his strongest team? And he probably can't. No. So that's the difficulty. But fans are fickle. They'll only judge you on what's on the field at that moment in time.
Absolutely. Okay, so for you then, Stephen, I'm not sure if you're working, where you'll be watching the game.
I'm not actually that sure at the moment. I'll probably be working, so hopefully working, covering it.
You best not be a Goodison. Doesn't work out.
I record at Goodison's exemplary. I've got into the broadcasting world. I think in my last 7 games, Everton have lost 6 and drawn 1. Yeah, so I think I'll be ringing a few companies seeing if they want me to work that one.
We'll see if I can lock you in your house. Listen, thanks a lot for your time, Stephen. Really appreciate it, and may the best team win.
I'm sure they will. Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, I'll definitely be on the hunt for him if I see him anywhere near Goodison, looking to take him out. No, again, like Joe, thank you very much to Stephen Warnock for sharing the time. Again, very good friend of the show. Hope he's obviously not the happier of the 2 guests on Wednesday night. Not much, I suppose, towards the end that we hadn't already covered in the Joe Parkinson section. Maybe, obviously, adding to your comments, Seri, of most of our players maybe being available on Wednesday, and it'll be interesting to see. It's a weird one, isn't it? Because we've obviously will be able to field a close to full strength side, and that almost makes the pressure even worse on Benitez to a certain extent, because it's like you can't use as many of them injuries, to support it. Do you think that adds to it a little bit, everyone?
Yeah, I think it does. He's in a difficult situation. You know what I mean? Because even probably with your full strength side, you'd say we're the better team, but at the same time, I think you'd get a bit more grace from your fans if you've got a team that's hollowed out by injury, when you get beat by a Liverpool team who's looking really good at the moment. It'd hurt, but you'd sort of get over it. But if you've got almost a full strength team, and then you set the team up to be really, really negative and sit back, and then you still get beat, I think it's a lot more difficult for your fans to swallow that one, in terms of why did we not compete with what should be one of our better sides, on paper, practically a full strength side. So I think it's a tough scenario, it's a tough situation for Benitez to be in.
Okay, so we've had a bit of analysis from both sides of the park, ex-pros. We've added our little bit. Let's get down to the crunch then. Predictions. I'll go with the Reds first.
Do you want to go first, guys?
I'm torn between head or heart, or a mixture of both. You go too outlandish, and then you're on the wrong end of the result. You look ridiculous next week. But I'll stick my neck on the line. We're going to absolutely snot you this time. I'm going to go 4-0.
Strong. I mean, it is one of them, like as Gaz said, where you're putting your head on the chopping block. But I think this Liverpool team is playing good football again now. We're scoring goals. I think we scored 2 away for 17 consecutive games or something now, which is like a joint record. So this Liverpool team's in good confidence and a good reign of form. And I'm going to say I think it could be a good win for us, 3-0.
Pricey?
Well, I just want to say that Stephen Warnock said it's just another game for Liverpool, not a chance. It's just another game for Liverpool. Look at Gary's face as if it's just another game for Liverpool. I'm going to back us. I'm going to say 2-1 Everton, because why not? I think we've got to get behind them. We've got to show a bit of confidence in them. Got to, we've had a bad run. It's got to come to an end somehow. And why not under the lights at Goodison when everyone's up for it? I'm going to go Everton 2-1.
Superb, love it, Pricey. You know what? It's like the Everton do this to you anyways. Only the closer it gets to the game, they kind of suck you in. It's like, and the more I hear people talk about it and the way that the game might pan out and the things that could work in our favour, I don't know. I just think it could be one of them nights for me. And there's an obvious thing to say. I know Millsy mentioned it last night. And just a mention to last night's podcast, part 1. We've got Kevin Campbell and Jamie Carragher on there. Please go and check that one out as well. Really passionate, as you can imagine, from Carragher and Campbell. But the more I think about it, if we can get past 20 minutes, 25 minutes with the score at 0-0, or at least with Liverpool not scoring, I think the game changes. It's a bit like a boxing match where there's a favourite coming into it who's expected to dominate the fight, but then maybe it doesn't go the way that person's expecting it to. We've seen one of them at the weekends with Teofimo Lopez, where once the game or the fight goes beyond a certain point, the whole psychology, everything changes. I think.
Stop delaying, will you? Give us your prediction.
He's going to say 1-0 Liverpool now. Probably.
No. I'm going to go with 1-0 Everton. I honestly think if we get past half time, and obviously that score prediction's out the window if we get 15 minutes in, you go 1-0 up. But I'm going to go 1-0 Everton. I think that.
I'm not having you honestly believe this Everton team keeping this Liverpool team out.
I've got no doubt about the way that Benitez is going to set that team up, and he's going to park the bus. He's going to sit everyone back, but I think he's going to have enough on the counter-attack to nick a goal. I think Pricey's right. I think you do give chances away. We'll absolutely have to rise our luck, and I think it'll be one of the jammiest 1-0s you'll ever see, but I think it could be one of them nights.
Even more than Origi's off the crossbar last minute header?
No, not quite to that. No, not quite to that extent. But yeah, that's about it from us. Our 2 shows this week. Massive thanks again to our sponsors, Camber Kings UK, Their Clothing, and of course our newest partner, BETMATE. And as I've said a few times, I've put it up on the screen. Download BETMATE through the App Store, but more importantly, click that subscribe button. We've done our best to bring you the very best content this week. You can't get much better than Kevin Campbell, Jamie Carragher, Joe Parkinson, Stephen Warnock in no particular order. We've also got a special coming out just after this, which is Paddy the Baddie Pimlet. Just him having a chat with Terry, proper scouse as you can get, talking about the derby. That's a bit more of a red one because we had a blue one out for you last week. So anyway, without further ado, enjoy the rest of your week. If you're on the blue side, hopefully you're happy on Wednesday. If you're on the red side, feel sorry for you because you're going to be on the wrong end of a blue win on Wednesday. Take care, everyone. Catch us all next week.